Call public hearing to order. The City of Belton will hold a public hearing on the proposed annual budget for the fiscal year beginning April 1st, 2023 and ending March 31st, 2024. You want to say anything?
Yeah, essentially the budget we're proposing for approval later this evening is what was presented on February 28th, with the exception of two minor amendments. One would be under the city attorney line. There were a couple of lines missing that I'll go over when it's time for you guys to approve, and then the other one is the ARPA funds. The latest one that we're going to ask you to approve would be splitting the $900,000 of reallocation between hotel, motel, and general fund, which would push the general fund balance to 15% fund balance, which is what we are required to do by charter. So those are the things I'll be proposing, and that's obviously what we would like the public to understand, and if they have any feedback, we'd love to hear it.
Anybody from the public wish to speak? All right, I'll ask one more time. Anybody from the public want to speak? If not, we will adjourn the public hearing. Call regular meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Mary.
Mayor Larkey,
Here.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Powell,
Here.
Councilmember Pryan,
Here.
Councilmember Kraft,
You're muted.
I am here, sorry.
Councilmember Clerk,
Aye. Here.
Councilmember Goff,
Present.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Personal appearances. A, Proclamation Arbor Day. You need a microphone.
Need a
Chris.
microphone.
It's coming. It's coming.
Proclamation Arbor Day. Whereas in 1892, J. Sterling Morton first proposed that a special commemorative day be officially set aside for the planting of and the acknowledgement of trees. And whereas this holiday, designated as Arbor Day, is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas on April 15th, 2023, the City of Belton will celebrate Arbor Day and pay special attention to the wonderful treasure that our trees represent and dedicate themselves to the continued health of our state's urban and rural forest. Now, therefore, Norman K. Larkey, Sr., Mayor of the City of Belton, Missouri, does hereby proclaim April 15th, 2023 to be Arbor Day and the month of April 2023 to be Arbor Month in the City of Belton. We urge all citizens to become more aware of the importance of trees to their well-being, to participate in the tree planting programs that will ensure a green Belton for decades to come, and to plant, nurture, protect, and wisely use Belton's great treasure of trees. In witness whereof, Norman K. Larkey Sr., Mayor of the City of Belton, Missouri, has hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed at Belton, Missouri, this 14th day of March 2023.
Any comments? Anybody want to talk out of you four?
Oh, I would like to thank these volunteers. I mean, a lot of people don't know we have a tree board, and we'd like to get that out to the residents in Belton. They spend countless hours working on stuff behind the scenes, the Arbor Day, other events that we do. We do tree trimmings, stuff like that. So Leslie has been, this will be her 3rd year as president of the tree board, and she was president years ago as well. Martha is the vice president, or not vice president, secretary treasurer, and Randy Ashes is the vice president. So, and we thank them for their dedication to our city. Anything you want to add? Come out to Memorial Park on April 15th. We'll be dedicating a tree for Jana Dillon, who passed away down in Harrisonville in that head-on collision.
So it'll be at Memorial Park at 10 a.m.
At Memorial Park. We haven't really set a location for the tree yet. They did give me some ideas today, so. But we look forward to seeing you guys out there. So,
Cool.
And email me if you need any more information on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you, both, each and every one of you. Thank you. All right. Item B, summer community event.
My name is Stephanie Davidson. My address is 847 Creekmore Pond Lane in Raymore, Missouri, 64083. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Davidson, and I requested to speak today regarding a budget item in the amount of $25,000 for a summer event on Main Street. First, let me start by saying that I can appreciate the work and cooperation it has taken to get the budget to a place where the city can comfortably sponsor community events. That is no small feat. I think everyone would agree that the 150th birthday bash was an incredible event, and its success was due to the teamwork and support, financial and otherwise, of several individuals and local organizations. For the birthday, the city donated $30,000, and for good reason. It was the city's event. The $25,000 requested for the event in July is not a city event. I want to make that distinction. If the goal of the city is to financially support more community events, I think that's great. There are many local organizations who could benefit from such support, including our own Parks Department, who currently has to fundraise for all of their major events. So in closing, I would ask you to please consider turning these funds into a grant. Please do not earmark these funds for any one person, group, or event. That will only create unnecessary feelings of unfairness and set a precedent for that any individual or organization is entitled to taxpayer dollars if they simply ask. A grant would help us avoid that. By creating a grant, you open up support to so many local organizations, all of whom can serve and celebrate the community in meaningful ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinances. A, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2023-10.
An ordinance approving the final Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission interactive radar sign agreement and license with the City of Belton, Missouri, substantially similar to the draft agreement included as Exhibit A for installation of an interactive radar sign at the intersection of Main Street and Cedar Street Y Highway and authorizing the Public Works Director to execute the same on behalf of the City of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Goff,
Aye.
Powell,
Yes.
Richardson,
Aye.
Pryan,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Kraft,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Mayor Larky.
Aye. Motion carries. B, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-12.
An ordinance approving a TIPS hotline contract with the Kansas City Metropolitan Crime Commission.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any comments, Chief, other than what we've already had?
Yeah, the Crime Commission, this is a great organization that's very supportive of law enforcement, and we've used it on numerous occasions to highlight some of the crime that we need tips on. Most recently, they helped us with tips on the Rita Ramirez homicide back in 2017. That's actually have somebody charged and in custody for, and we recommend paying the $3,000 in regards to the contract. We get back way much more from them.
Anybody have any questions?
You got any time constraints? Do you need a second reading tonight?
There's no time constraints,
All right.
but however you'd like to proceed.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, make a motion for a second reading.
We have a motion for a second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. B, a motion approving the second reading of Bill 2023-12.
Ordinance approving a TIPS hotline contract with the Kansas City Metropolitan Crime Commission.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Pryan,
Aye.
Kraft,
Aye.
Powell,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Goff,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Mayor Larky,
Yes.
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Motion carries. C, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-13.
An ordinance approving the proposed fiscal year 2024 city budget as revised and appropriating funds from the revenues of the city.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and council members, yes, you noticed the motion was for revised version. Obviously, February 28th, there was the city manager's proposed budget. There are two changes I mentioned briefly before the public hearing. One of them was simply a clerical oversight on under city attorney, the legal services. We were not planning apparently to pay Patrick for his services for our good city. Him and economic development and litigation, so that money has been added in there, and it's been figured in the final numbers. So that was an oversight. Other than that, we have adjusted, we had with the feedback to try and get up to 15% fund balance. I mentioned the reallocation of the ARPA funds, and so we would have, as you can see there, our general fund right here at the top is at 15% at $3.5 million ending cash at end of 2024 in the general fund. And that's the fund that we have to be at 15%. So essentially that $900,000 in ARPA funds we discussed at the city manager's proposed budget 2 weeks ago. We took half of it and put it in the general fund. Half of it is in hotel motel tax. We transferred those from the wastewater fund where they had originally been allocated. That doesn't mean we can't still use that $450,000 for the intended purpose, which is an economic development. We can use that out of the general fund if we so choose as well. So we won't use the entirety of our budget to begin with, but this at least gets us in line with our charter and being at 15% with a fund balance in the general fund. I would be glad to answer any questions you might have for the budget. You guys have had it for a couple of weeks, and we can go through whatever you'd like.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, on January 31, which was alluded to by the
previous speaker. We did approve $25,000 for community projects and events, but I couldn't find it exactly broken out. I saw two community programs, one under legislative and one under senior center.
Be under legislative,
So the 47,000 there
included in the
includes
47,000.
the
It would
25,000.
include the $25,000, and that technically hasn't been approved yet. This would, if it gets approved tonight, even then, it's not approved for allocation. We would have to come back to the city council for approval for any actual allocation to any.
Okay, so it's like a space holder or something.
It just gives us the authority to spend the money within the
okay.
budget.
Okay, and then again, following up on the question of the public presenter, is that something similar that we provide to, for instance, the Parks Department who puts on Summerfest or whatnot?
Well, Parks Department has, it has funding sources of its own that are, I mean, it's a city department essentially, so, I mean, and then there's the sales tax for parks that generates revenue. Then they also have some revenue generating activities that they have through their memberships at High Blue and all of the programming that they have that potentially brings in some revenue. So they have some revenue sources of their own, yes.
Okay, okay.
That's not to stop us. There's nothing stopping us, if the council so chooses, from allocating further funding to the parks if we so choose. But that's at your purview.
Okay, so again, reading the minutes of January 31, it seems that the 25,000 isn't or the 47,000 or whatever isn't geared towards any one group. We could hire somebody from New Mexico to come in and put on a party or whatever if we found that they were good at doing this, apparently. Okay, so I think that's then the suggestion about a grant, which again came up earlier. It's that money is available to anybody who came in and said, well, hey, we can give you a good party on, July 2nd or September 10th or whatever.
Once the money's budgeted, the council at any point could decide just to allocate that how they choose. If they wanted to do a grant, if they wanted to throw a party of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if I could continue.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you're fine. Go
okay.
ahead.
And we talked about this the other day, and I just wanted to follow up because I know you're new, and I know all our financial people are new pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But back in May, we got the results of a state audit, and one of the big reasons we had an audit was because there were overhead allocations which seemed to be over the top, and the auditor's main thing to Belton was you need to have a better calculation of how that works, because people, erroneously or not, were tying the extra overhead allocation to extra water bills. So, and you said the other day that, and it shows in this budget that there wasn't any change, but we did, and I don't think it ever got publicly sent out, but we did say that we were going to have a study about that. And I know you want to have a citizens committee that looks at the budget, but I still think we need some experts. And I think we also need to comply with the state audit recommendation. I mean, it doesn't say you must, it says you should, but I think that we need a better way of calculating how much the water department and the wastewater department, for instance, how they allocate, how they are charged for some of the in-house stuff that they pay for.
I don't think that's an unfair request at all. I believe that, first of all, there was a study somewhat commissioned by the council to look at the overhead allocations. I asked for a pause on that while we got the finance department back up and running. We've had to go backtrack and do an audit that was supposed to have been done for 2022. We'll be going right into the audit for 2023. All that aside, because of that reason, I wanted to put a pause on the overhead now, or on the overhead study, on overhead allocation. What we're proposing to do, and I'll have a resolution for you at the very next meeting, is to create a budget and finance committee which would include some representation from the council as well as the finance staff and a couple of department heads within the city staff. And what I'd like to do is look at the way the budget is structured, the way our financial department is structured, and see if we feel like it's the best way for our city moving forward. I think that we ought to look at it from a transparency perspective, especially to make sure it's as easy to understand as possible.
Right.
And my recommendation from that front on the study for overhead allocation is let's get through that. And if we still feel like there's an overhead allocation study that's necessary, at that point, there's nothing to stop us from pulling the trigger to get that study started.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Mayor? Is he still thinking? You should.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I passed to whoever.
You're fine,
No,
just making sure. Just making
I just want to tag on to Councilman Powell's stuff. I mean, I've been up here for 4 years complaining about the water bills and how much they cost and stuff like that, so you're preaching to the choir. Now, the problem gets into the overhead allocation was capped, I'm going to say in 2014, so when you see the 612 and the 814, those have been the same numbers forever. So in my opinion, there's a myriad of stuff. So if you go back and look at the budget of 2013, and that's the year that the use tax was basically taken away from the cities, and when it first went away, it was anything that was purchased outside the state was not going to be, you didn't have to pay sales tax. So we created a line item called Public Works Billing, and I think that's where we got to go after is Public Works Billing. It's not overhead allocation, because we got to have overhead allocation to pay for our staff that works on that at City Hall, from part of Greg's salary, part of Joe's salary, and Finance Department salary. So all that overhead allocation should be calculated based on those departments that work there. But I think Public Works is one of those that, it was created in 2013 when the use tax kind of went away, and it's a way for them to generate income. So unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, last year was a year we should have done all this. But we
Well-
didn't stand up to the finance department last year and challenge them. They just put all that money back into vehicles and raises and stuff like that. So I like the direction we're running today with our new administration.
Yeah,
But I
do
think
too.
we as a council need to look forward and start thinking about stuff like this moving forward. But I think last year when we got that new money coming in from Chewy is a year that we should have made the leap, and we didn't do it.
Well, the audit was May 22nd, so we passed the budget a couple of months before.
I know, but we've been talking about the overhead allocation. I know the mayor in when he ran for election, he had a nice little spreadsheet about overhead allocation and Public Works billing and all that stuff. So it's been talked about for years, and it's just the 9 of us have to someday
Bite the bullet.
with them saying, how are we going to fix this?
Yeah, because what you said at very first is true. It's been the same since 2014, and I know that down to the hour, the exact same amount of hours have not been charged every single year.
Well, they kind of capped it because it kept getting larger and larger. I think I calculated we take 32% of our water and sewer bills to fund the general fund. So I think that's something we should be looking forward to. And I commend Joe and Casey and the rest of the staff. We're not passing on the water sewer bill increases this year in our budget. So
Oh, true.
that's a start. I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
it ain't getting us there, but it's a start. I think that's something that we should commend them for at least bringing that to our attention. Like, we don't want to pass this on because we have enough money in there to handle that increase. So as a council member who sat up here for 4 years now, I've been up here, I think that's might be the first time that we've eaten a increase from Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I just bring up some of the stuff that I've been talking about for 4 years, and I agree with you. There's something we need to do moving forward, and I hope that budget committee will get us there.
Yeah, sounds like you should be on it.
The other thing I will tell you is that 25,000, first time we've ever put money in the budget for any type of event or events. So it is like last year we budgeted $70,000 for 150th birthday party, and I think our ended up balance, I think someone told me it was like 44,000. So we didn't even use all 70,000. We just say we can budget up to $70,000. So I mean, it's nice to be invested in our community.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have a problem with putting money up there if someone wants to come to us and needs help with, getting an act here that's gonna draw people to our community, like, Tate last year, if you didn't show up, I tell people, I've never seen a crowd on Main Street like that in my life, so.
Well, I don't think anybody's speaking against,
City we got as a community, or just bringing the community together, if they're all Belton people, I look out and see what we did last year, not me, what they did last year, and just see the end result on Main Street was wonderful, so.
I don't think anybody had a problem with the 150th or the 25,000 for that matter. Thanks.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I was just gonna go off of Dave there too. On the $25,000, I thought it was a city event being run by another organization, and I don't see any other organization coming from New Mexico, like you said, coming in and working for free. I've seen the hours that's put into some of these events, and it's a lot. And to do what they did, it was a pretty cool event that we had up here. So.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Dave, for that rendition. And I do want to reiterate that we're not passing on the increases.
Microphone.
I'm on it. So I just wanted to reiterate that because I think that's important, that we were able to look at the budget and keep the residents from having to have an increase in their water and stuff.
There will be an ordinance when we do the final reading as well, an ordinance for water and sewer rates at the next meeting as well as part of that.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I will say, as I told Joe Friday when we were discussing the budget, it's nice that for the first time I've ever seen that we have money. Everything that I've ever been involved with the city has been, we are pinching pennies, who we're going to keep, who we're going to let go, and it's so nice to see that there's actually a surplus of money coming in, that we can do things, and that's been very rare. Hope it stays that way.
Yeah, I hope so too. Do you have anything?
Everyone said everything good.
I just want to thank city staff and the council for getting this budget to where it is today. I mean, I think we've taken some big steps in a move in the right direction from which way we were going in the past. So I just want to thank everybody for that, so.
Well, I think one of the things that, I think we've taken somewhat of a pause on some of our buying here recently too, so I think having a new staff and new eyes looking at stuff and moving forward, I mean, we've had some comments about the budget that was presented 2 weeks ago, whatever that was, how much easier it was for people to follow and understand. I told you, I'm old school. I'm used to those spreadsheets now. But for majority of the people who watch us and do watch our budget, I thought it was very easy to follow and understand where our money's going and how they got it there. So I commend them on their budget proposal just because I think the population that watches our meetings understood that better, so.
And I think that's a plan with the Budget and Finance Committee, is to create something that's better to understand and for the general public.
I think we can take further steps, and I think that committee can help us get there to where, again, the whole idea is to make it, one, as easy to administer as possible and follow, but two, when you do that, it makes it a lot more transparent for anybody who's interested to see where the money goes.
I have complained for 4 years that for the general population that don't go through Ron Trivett's 12 budget meetings every year, it's hard for people to understand that. But
Yeah, very hard.
if you're just going through, like here recently, we'd have 2 or 3 meetings on the budget, and I don't know how many pages are in those spirals, but there's got to be 150 of them, and to run through that in 3 hours is very difficult for people to really grasp that budget. But I think having something what you presented was easier for people to understand.
Well, we can get better with that too. I mean, I think that there's a lot we can still do with that as far as making it easy to understand.
Well, and not to keep taking up time there,
You're fine,
but
go ahead, you're fine.
I don't know, we know what everything's went through with the finance department over the last 7-8 months too, so to commend those people in the finance department and department heads getting together and helping create this budget was wonderful. So it's been difficult or rocky, I don't know which word it is, but it's, you know, they got it done, we got our audits done, and we're moving forward, and I like the direction we're going, so.
Just a question, I should know this, but how was the public, how did the public access it? Was it online, or did they have to come in and see a paper copy, or?
Our current budget's online. I don't know if our proposed budget's
proposed
online.
budget.
I think it's,
Actually, the whole thing may or may not, that's a good question. I don't know if the whole thing is.
Well, I mean, we're asking the public to come and
Correct.
make a comment, but if
point.
if
That's a
they
fair
had to
point.
come in and sign in and look for 3 hours through paper, then that's probably why nobody showed up.
Yeah, we can definitely put it online and.
let's
give
check
everybody
and
a
make
chance, so
sure
that
if it
way-
isn't.
We'll make sure it's online, so that way, next 2 weeks before our final approval, we've given everybody a chance to look at it. And actually, given that, it would make a lot of sense for us to, even if we wanted to do a public hearing.
Do another
at the
one
next-
in 2 weeks.
do that.
That's fine.
I think, again, it's all about transparency and giving people a chance to give their feedback. I think that's fair.
Absolutely.
Well, typically, you would find that underneath the finance department, I think currently.
Well, technically, the summary of the budget, which is what we're required to publish in the newspaper, has been in the newspaper. So that's technically what they could have already spoken out toward or against, but at the same time, that's not nearly as comprehensive as what the budget entails. And so, I mean, to your point, yes, we should have
Just
something
make sure
online
we
for people to
put
see.
it online, and we'll
Yeah.
have another public
course.
hearing in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the only thing I see is the current year budget, and I don't
Yeah.
see the proposed budget on there.
I don't think it's on there. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask one more time to make sure I understand. Because, you know, when you turn 65 today, you know, it's,
Oh, happy
Today's your
birthday.
things start to just fall apart. Anyway, so the 25,000 for the allocation for the events, that's not tied to anything at this point?
Nope.
Okay, so that's all I need to know.
Anybody else? Angela, you have anything? We can't see you right now, but do you have anything?
I am good. I am loving the budget. I have gotten comments on people that have watched last council meeting with the proposal of it. It was absolutely amazing. People are very happy that it's so much easier now to understand.
All right, that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolutions. A, motion approving resolution R 2023-14.
A resolution approving the Central Square Solutions Agreement between Central Square Technologies LLC and the City of Belton, Missouri, and authorizing the execution of the same.
Present.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or?
I'll be glad to take this since Casey is out sick today. Yes, you'll recall that we had had a cancellation of a previous product. Central Square is currently our finance software. They also have other modules that go with the finance that includes things that are community development related, you know, business license related, code enforcement related to Councilmember Bryan, who's brought that up to me about a dozen times. It has some HR component, has a lot of components to essentially help us run the city more efficiently. So we would like to stay with that company, and they have an upgraded product, which would bring all of that in-house, and it cuts down our implementation time from what the product that we just canceled to the current, to upgrade this product. Rather than a 2-year process, we can have this done in probably 9-10 months, we think, so.
And it's cheaper.
And it's cheaper, and again, we don't have to run 2 systems at once, because if we're gonna implement a new system, we would have to keep running the current system while we're getting the new system up in essentially operational. And now we can just literally upgrade this one, and it's all in there, and we can, we don't have to run 2 systems at the same time, which is gonna help us on the staffing side.
I guess my question, and I might have missed this in the budget process, but we saved about $700,000 on that?
Yeah.
That go back into the general fund and?
Yeah, that was essentially a capital expense that we didn't have to pay for. We're paying for this out of, because a lot of it is water, wastewater, utility related. That's the vast majority of this product is our finance that includes that, our accounts payable and receivable. And so
Yes, it'll be paid for out of capital from those two funds, water and wastewater.
So over the last 2 years, I thought we put out $700,000 each year, so we already had that money sitting aside,
We did. It's using the money. It was money that was already there. It was money that was had already been allocated, yes.
Okay, I just
We're
wanna
essentially
make-
carrying it forward, for lack of a better term.
Now, last year, we had everybody go back in and have to do like their water bills over if they're having like an EFT, electronic funds transfer. I'm assuming that was with Central Square, so we don't have to worry about that but staying with them?
We should, yeah, any thing that we've had to do to implement new things with our current software should stay applicable as we upgrade, because we're not changing software. It's the same, it's literally the same company.
Okay.
It's just the newer version that has a lot more bells and
I
whistles.
didn't understand. I thought this was, we switched because we were switching over to that new company.
We do use a Tyler product that is integrated with it, which is, Tyler was the company that we canceled the other system. But it's working right now integrated, and that doesn't have to change because it's the same. I mean, it's already integrated. Let's put it that way.
I just know there was a lot of people didn't get the memo to go back in and redo
Understood.
everything, so just want to make sure we didn't have to worry about that again.
The cool thing is I hope this will be not really noticed from the negative standpoint for the residents, but I'm hoping that actually it could be noticed from a positive standpoint, because it's going to allow us for some more options for seeing things online and accessing things online when it comes to the customer accounts.
Cool, thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Well, the community, and I realize she's not here, but community development software, which is the newer thing, for permits and building codes and all that, it relies a lot, from reading through that thing, it relies a lot on GIS data. Is our
Sure.
data in the right format for them? Do we know?
We have folks who are pretty good at that and already do that.
Turning it
And so
around?
we'll have no problem with that.
Okay. And second, and this is trivial, but it says, I think, it says if you're going to use VPN, they keep track of that. Are we going to use VPN, or
Well, we use VPN now, so yeah, I assume we would use
okay,
VPN.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, one motion not available to approve recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City Council liaison reports. I know Allison's gone. If you have something, go ahead.
I got on downtown Belton, Main Street is doing an event, Cinco de Mayo, Friday, May 5th, from 4 to 9 on the 400 block of Main Street. There's going to be bands, music, food, all sorts of stuff. So we'd like to have everybody we could out, make it a cool event. Thanks.
I will, Allison did email me a report, so I will read that from her, so give me a second. First cruise night is April 4th, 2022. New time this year, it is from 2 to 6 p.m. Spring Craft Show is April 15th. We are sold out of vendor spots, which is a good thing. I don't know the time on that. She didn't put the time on that. Do you, Brian, do you know the time on that? The Spring Craft Show?
I believe it starts at 8
8
a.m.
a.m., okay. We'll double check that, but 8 a.m. Kids Paint Party is 4/21/2023, and there's no time. She didn't put a time on that either, so.
What about the Easter egg hunt?
She
That's
didn't
not
put,
on there?
it's not on my list. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
3 outdoor pool passes, big golden eggs. I think these are all prizes for that. So, but no. All right. She can update us when she gets back. Anybody else, Rob?
Nothing happened. Oh, I was going to say something from communication from city council, but if there's any other reports, go ahead.
Okay. Any other communication from city council?
Oh,
Go ahead,
Oh,
go ahead.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, today, and I had nothing to do with it, but they were resurfacing the street right in front of our house. So I was talking to the guys doing it from SB. I forget what SB stands for, but
Superior Bowen.
Superior Bowen.
There we go. Anyway, they said that Belton is one of the best cities in the whole area for keeping their streets up. So I think that's a compliment to our public works and the whole city, for that matter.
To the citizens for allowing us to do it and
Well, yeah, that's
supporting
right.
it.
I said, well, we passed a bond to do it, so I think that's good. And then second, he's already supplanted me, but I wanted to wish my Ward 4 council person friend here happy birthday.
I second
And we
that.
could sing too.
I second
but
that.
Probably.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Brett.
The big one.
Birthday? Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, right. Right. Now you can get Medicare.
I'll tell us, I'll,
I had to, I enrolled.
Good, good.
Dave's been trying to get a hold of you.
yeah, I'm calling you tomorrow.
Just Part A.
Have your permission first, so.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Rob and I are going to have a Ward 4 meeting Monday, March 27th at 6:30 at Memorial Station.
Can you repeat that?
March
27th at 6:30?
Yeah, 27th, Monday the 27th at 6:30.
All right. Anybody else? I don't have much. I just, again, want to thank everybody, staff, council, citizens, for the work on the budget. I think we're, again, moving in a good direction and positive direction for the city and the citizens. You got anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that on March 2nd was the police awards ceremony, and that went really well. And I certainly appreciate all the folks at the police department and the work that they do throughout the year, keeping everybody safe here in Belton. They were able to recognize a lot of those individuals and some of their going above and beyond in certain instances, and just being good stewards of the community and exemplary individuals for our staff and our community. So I want to thank them for that. That's all I've got.
All right, meeting dates are on there. We did move May's meeting, last meeting in May. We moved it to the 30th, so you guys can put that on your calendar. Items for review and discussion. A, codes amendment to conform with Article 14 of Missouri Constitution.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. City staff has been in the process of preparing revisions to the city's offenses code regarding recreational marijuana. Generally, the currently proposed amendments would just track exactly with Article 14, Section 2, which was Amendment 3 that was passed by Missouri voters in November. They will specifically deal with the amount a person over the age of 21 may possess at any one time, possession by people under the age of 21, driving while under the influence, growing of marijuana subject to the rules and regulations of DHSS, and then also the smoking or consumption of marijuana in a public place.
Any questions? Item B, code amendments for municipal court.
Thank you again, Mayor and members of council. The municipal court went through a standard OSCA, Office of State Courts Administration audit. During that audit, OSCA noted that there are several provisions of the code which no longer conform to Missouri law or the Supreme Court operating rules. I've discussed all of those with Judge Nigro. All the provisions noted have been basically inapplicable, and the court has not been utilizing any of them. You also have an ordinance already on the books that automatically preempts any ordinance that may not conform to Missouri law, but we're going to go back through and clean those up and provide those to you at the next council meeting.
Any questions? Item C, Missouri Public Safety, ARPA grant.
I think I brought this up to you guys already when I was applying for it. We have gotten word that we have won at least one of the grants that I put in for. I put in for two separate grants, one on the fire side, one on the EMS. So I'm hoping that we're going to get that information before the next meeting, and I'll have an ordinance before you to receive those funds. It'll be basically it's a zero cost for us. We've got to use in-kind financing on that, so it meant that I could just prove certain things that I'd already purchased in this budget. So if it's the fire side, we asked for 20,000 to invest in bunker gear, which we have a replacement program we do for our folks. And the EMS side, we asked for some training funds to send some of our folks to some specialized training that would allow us to charge some extra costs onto Medicare for certain patients transferring out of the hospital. So hope to have that in front of you in the next meeting if they reach out with the completed documents.
Any questions?
What are these grants? Are they for personnel, are they for equipment, or?
So if it's the fire grant, specifically going to be for bunker gear replacement, and then the EMS grant would be for training of current paramedics. It's an advanced critical class, basically, that allows us to charge a critical care charge to Medicare for patients who meet those requirements.
All right, there you go there, Brett White.
Any questions? D, pay side letter.
With the upcoming approval of the budget, that's going to make some changes to pay, which is already handled within the collective bargaining agreement we have with Local 42. So this is just some cleanup stuff that we have to put in there to let them know what the differences are between what you've approved in the budget and what they had originally received within the CBA. So the extra 2.5% was a little, it's actually an extra step than what they were going to get. So we draft that quickly in a side letter, and both parties sign it, and we attach it to the CBA.
Why do we have an agreement? It seems like we don't follow it. I mean, they've gotten 2 raises 2 years in a row. Are they going to remember this next year, or are they going to I don't remember any raises.
Well, we'll know that in about 6 months.
All right.
We start negotiations.
Any other questions?
I would point out that it's a highly competitive arena right now as far as recruitment and retention of staff in fire, and if we don't keep pace, we will be left behind and left without.
All right, E, purchase of a SWAT van.
This is an item that was originally on the FY 2022 budget year. It was a rollover from 2021. We ended up putting a resolution together on July that the mayor signed for a Dodge vehicle. It was a high-top van that we had actually put a bid out. Dodge was the only one that responded to the bid, and that was because we specifically went to our local dealership and asked them to respond. It was for $53,215. We've had talked to the dealership on many occasions and documented it. They've failed to respond. They've not even told us whether or not the vehicle is on the assembly line. What our information is that this is coming up and probably going to have to be rolled again into the next budget year. But we ended up running across a local Kansas City Mercedes dealership that had a lot of high-top vans of the same specifications. We made contact with them. A van of similar to the one we want retails for a value of $57,726. And we told them what our situation is, and they said they would honor $53,216, the same price that was going to buy the original one. And so we have a exhibit that we'll be putting forward with that council packet that'll show the vehicle and the specifications and how it matches exactly what we're looking for. And this Mercedes dealership that is just west of us is helping us out in regards to this purchase. This van, it was originally titled a SWAT van. Yes, the SWAT team will be using it on occasions, but this is a van we'd be using to move our equipment, especially when we have crime scenes. We have all kinds of equipment that we need to move, such as 3D scanners and screens and all kinds of other equipment, and so it'll be used for other purposes.
Any questions? Go ahead.
My only question is, I mean, I know we have a garage that fixes a lot of this stuff, and friends of mine, other mechanics, tell me that Mercedes are a pain to work on and very expensive to work on. So I'm just trying to make sure we're thinking all this stuff through, making sure we don't have to take it back to the dealership just to be worked on and all that.
Yeah, I can engage with our public works, our mechanics, and go through that. I believe it's made by, they supply that same van to other manufacturers as well and sell them under different brands, so
Okay.
we should be able to find that out.
Mercedes, Chrysler, Dodge are all the same, aren't they?
They just stick a different badge on it
Different badge
and charge
comes off the
$4,000
assembly
more.
Go ahead.
Can I do a communication real quick I forgot about?
Sure.
Well, Chief Lyons started talking, I forgot that we had a fundraiser for supplies for a dog. Hopefully the dog's in our budget this year.
I want to talk about that too.
Aaron's Family Fun Center had their annual fundraiser this year for the Belton public safety, way more public safety, and the veterans of foreign wars. They raised money. I didn't never got the amount, but he usually does about $60,000 a year. And last year, I think they gave us $19,000 to go purchase a dog. And I know this year they're going to give us more money to help towards the purchase of the dog and the equipment for the dog. So his only request again is he wants to name it Stryker, but I told him we'll work on that. But I just wanted to thank Aaron's for having an event and raising money for our community.
I will add, I was there as well, and it was quite impressive of what they put on out there, so I do thank them. All right, are you done, Chief?
Yes.
Any questions on the SWAT van and utility vehicle? Item F, Downtown Belton Main Street, Inc., 2023 events.
Says Joe Warren.
Yeah, I know
looks
it
like
says me, but I had asked to have this put on there as a placeholder just to say, so if someone from Main Street wanted to come and discuss this with the council, that was the intention.
I think he's looking at you ladies, I think.
No, they're
Prepared?
They're always prepared to talk.
I do know there are some, I believe I can talk a little bit about this. I know there are 4 events that Main Street is trying to move forward with. One of them would be the Cinco de Mayo celebration that's coming up. Then there's the 4th of July celebration, which we've talked a little bit about, and that's what the initial discussion was behind that $25,000 that was in the budget that we discussed previously. And then I know they were talking about Fall Fest, and then some Christmas event. And so those are the 4 events I think that they're looking at doing. I don't know if these ladies have any other feedback on that.
I'm Diane Huckshorn. If you have questions about any of the events, I'm happy to answer any of those. As Chris mentioned, we are planning our first Cinco de Mayo event for May 5th. And we've gotten a lot of really good response from that event already. We do have a mariachi band and a Latin pop band and food trucks that we'll be doing. And then we are planning on doing a summer festival. It's 4th of July festival celebration on Main. And Friday night will be much like the Friday night or the Saturday night of the 150th. We have Tate Stevens booked and Elijah Chastain for a concert that night. And then Saturday will be a parade, vendors, food trucks, and all of that stuff. So we're excited about that. The community loved the event last year, wanted to continue that, so we're happy that we're able to work together to hopefully bring that forward. And then Fall Festival will be the second weekend in September, and then our Christmas event, along with Small Business Saturday, is on the books, and more plans on that to be decided later. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for any? Go ahead.
Are you planning, since it's gotta get this thing working. Since it's 4th of July, will you be having fireworks as well?
We will be.
And where will you be hosting those at?
The fireworks will be on Friday night right after Tate's concert.
They'll be fired from here down?
They will not. They will be shot from the same location that we shot them from the 150th.
Okay.
We've already gotten approval from the development company for that.
Anybody else?
I also wanted to point out that for the 3 of the 4 events, essentially all that we've been asked to provide is normal assistance we would for a community type of event. Like Public Works would potentially provide support with barricades, police with police presence and that kind of thing. Nothing unusual. I think the only one that there was ever any discussion about any financial support or anything more than just the normal support. It was just the 4th of July event.
Any other questions?
Just thank you for what you do for our community.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Thank you. Item G, recycling update.
Well, I'm coming here with less information than I hoped I would have when I initially set this up. We did reach out to a couple of contractors to try and get us some information on what it would take to do a drop-off recycling spot here in Belton. One of them just kind of passed completely, said, well, I'll pass it along with some other folks in my industry, but I don't think there's a lot of appetite for that right now. GFL, who was our current trash hauler, sent us these notes that I've put in your packet. That's essentially was their response to the idea of a drop-off site. I know we've done some initial calculating on what it would take for us to build a location to have a drop-off site here in Belton. And it would not be cheap. We'd have to do some concrete. We'd have to make sure that it's secured. We probably would need to man it somehow. And I don't envision it being overall much cheaper, if at all, than the curbside potentially would cost us. We might be able to get a little bit cheaper, but probably not a lot more. I'm still thinking it'd be $3 or $4 per user. And we'd have to go ahead and charge that if we were going to offer that service. At this time, staff's not really recommending we move forward with a drop-off location, mostly because that would be a replication of services that are currently available to our residents. Even though we don't have a local site in Belton, there's one just 10 minutes up the road on the interstate going in South Kansas City. There's one down south going to Harrisonville. You can go 20 minutes to Lee Summit, and they have a pretty good site there. And so I don't know that we would get a huge increase in utilization just because we moved that site here into Belton, if that makes sense. I think the folks that like to do that, like to access those drop-off sites, have that ability to do so now, and they do so now at their choosing. We would probably get a little bit of increase if there was one a little bit more convenient just here in town, but again, I don't think that would be a huge increase. So you'll notice that the quote that was given to us originally back in January is also in your packet. It is still good. It would essentially be, if we decided to do weekly, $5 a month, and if we want them to provide carts, it'd be $6 a month per user. Now we are looking at ways to creatively fund that. There's a $1.80 fee right now that we have on our trash bills for bins. We did purchase a bunch of trash bins with this latest contract that we did a few years back with a company that is now GFL. We debt service paid for a bunch of bins. That's been paid off since, and so that money that was paid off this year, this recent fiscal year. So that could open up some potential money to utilize that toward recycling if we wanted to help us to decrease that bill some. And then there's a little bit of fund balance in solid waste. Not a lot, but there's a little bit, and it could help us to defray some of those costs for the first year, maybe even a couple of years if we wanted to stair step this up, if we decided to do something like that. So maybe that $1.80 charge for bins, maybe we keep 40 or 50 cents of that on there for trash bins, so we can continue to replace the bins as needed, or supply bins whenever we have further development and growth. And then the rest of that $1.30 or $1.40 comes off of the bill, and then that would free up some bandwidth for helping us to minimize this cost of recycling. So we think there's a good possibility that we can either get it down to $2 to $3 for the first year for residents, and stair step it up to maybe add $1 a year for a few years until eventually we get to the $6 full. It'd be a 5-year agreement that would bring with you. That's what they're asking for. And so again, we're trying to minimize the impact to the residents as much as possible, while also providing as much service as possible and being responsive to the study that was done prior to my hiring here a couple years ago. That 66% of the residents really did ask for curbside recycling. So, any feedback, I'd be glad to hear it.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Would there be any possibility of having funds set aside for like a hardship situation where people could apply? My mind immediately goes to some of our seniors who have absolutely no money extra to give to recycling if it were something that could be proven as a hardship for them to be able to have
That's a good question.
something like that.
As you're talking about that, it kind of made me think of, well, that maybe there's a possibility that we could try to create some kind of a program, or at least a pilot program or something. Take it to, there are a few places we could potentially take a program like that to for some funding. Maybe we take it to Mark. I know they have some grants that they give out sometimes for recycling and those types of things. Maybe they could, help us with some of that stuff. I don't want to promise anything because I don't know yet. But that sounds like the type of programming that tends to get support. So let me look into that some more. I think that's a realistic possibility.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
The only thing I'm gonna say tonight would be, I'd sit here and talk about recycling, and I know some of us have talked about it a lot here in the past, and we're sitting here fighting landfills, and we're telling people we don't want landfills, but we don't want to do recycling too. So I tell people, I think we need to learn how to recycle better so we don't need landfills or as many landfills. So as we fight for our neighbor next door, and we don't want that to go in that location, we do need landfills to keep putting trash in it. But if we can minimize how much landfills we use in the future, I think by recycling is going to help. I know me and the mayor and somebody else went down to GFL last year and went through the recycling program. And Rob, I knew it was like 3 or 4 of us. I'm not 65 yet, but I'm getting close. My memory's getting a little short, but we went down to the recycling plant and did an investigation of that place, and it was actually pretty neat. They talked about where the stuff goes, so they are selling that product and getting rid of it. So it's not what we heard 3, 4 years ago, where this product was just going into a landfill. So there's a lot of new data going out there, and GFL says that they can get rid of it and have it recycled. So just to me, as I sit over here and you read about not wanting landfills, but yet I have people that don't want to recycle too. So I think we need to start looking at the recycling pretty hard as a community and doing that. So, and I know doing curbside, we're going to pick up a lot more people recycling than doing a drop-off site.
Go ahead.
When would you have the tier program finalized to be able to consider?
We will have something for you to consider at the next meeting. We'll have an item for you to consider.
Go ahead.
Going back on, I think everybody's for the recycling. I really don't think there's too many people that aren't going to be for recycling. My biggest concern is, here we are saying tonight, we're not going to raise the water bill. We're eating that increase from Kansas City. But here we're going to raise our water bill that a lot of people have been fighting on. That's my biggest concern, is raising our water bill. Because I don't know anybody that said, I'm okay with the increase in my water bill. So that's where I am on it.
I do believe that the study that I referenced earlier did say that if and I can't remember the dollar figure it had to it, but I think it was like $3 or $4 a month, if I'm not mistaken. When that was asked if the residents wanted that. Now, it wasn't unanimous. Obviously, there were a number of people that did not want it, but it was 66%, and it was scientific study. So
It was $6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But still, and I've had several people say, well, we want the drop-off. But I think they're thinking of what the drop-off used to be back over here on this lot, which was unmanned, and that was free. But I think these are probably representative figures, and and your point's well taken, that a 10-minute, 15-minute drive to either Harrisonville or Redbridge is worth it, not to risk having a messy situation like we had last time. And I know that if it's manned, it'll be a lot better, but still.
Go ahead.
My only thing I'm going to, Councilman Richardson, it ain't a water bill that we're increasing, it's a utility bill. So, I mean, water and sewer it's all on one bill, yeah, but it's not a water bill we're increasing, it's a utility bill. But, 64% said they wanted to increase the bill, so we have to listen to the majority, of this. And, unfortunately, when you get into politics, they tell you you don't listen to your your citizens. And here we are, we're not, 64% did a survey and said they wanted something. There was even an unofficial survey on Facebook here not too long ago, and I think it was like 80% said they wanted some type of recycling, and over half of them said they'd pay $5 to $6 a month for this. So, that was an unofficial survey. So I just think we gotta listen to what our citizens are asking us for and do it. But it's a utility bill.
Anybody else? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to enter an executive session to discuss matters pertaining to the leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.2, and to discuss matters pertaining to negotiated contracts according to Missouri State Statute 610.21.12, and the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember Goff,
Aye.
Pryan,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Powell,
Yes.
and Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carries.